welcome to our first, I guess, real market update session.
Yeah,
We really
we
haven't done one of these before, so this is going to be a
we
little.
tried.
Yeah, I don't know whether we ever released it though.
No,
I'm
we
pretty,
definitely didn't
I'm
release it.
pretty sure it's still sitting in the pile.
That'll be one of those things where 10 years down the road, people go, "Hey, they have unreleased footage from the early days
Yeah,
in the vault."
yeah, the vault.
That's like the Disney vault.
Yeah, we'll be the vault, all right. Okay, so I kind of just wanted to hit on some key points for what's gone on, and then we're going to focus this on Niagara. So to our friends in the West, we apologize, but we don't
Hmm.
have the same level of data that we do here.
Really?
Yeah, well, I have it, but because I've been accumulating data for so long for
Okay.
Niagara, I've only got about 9 or 10 months worth of data for my participation in the
Hmm.
West. So part of the, when you look at these things and look at numbers, part of it is that your knowledge as a realtor comes into play,
Which
right?
makes sense because numbers can say one thing and then
Oh, I can make a stat tell me
I know.
anything, and it's what drives me crazy is
Yes.
I can go into a meeting with somebody and say, hey, here's my stat, and they'll be like, well, so and so told me that. Well, that's their interpretation of that stat. There's nothing I can do about that. So I want to say about the market right now, and it's been a very up and down kind of quarter. um, I'm cautiously optimistic
On this next upcoming
on
quarter.
the next quarter and 2026. um, our prices pretty much have really leveled off.
Hmm.
There's some softness in some markets, not a ton.
Would you say
Um,
mostly like South Niagara?
Central, believe it or not, Welland, West Lincoln,
Okay.
Niagara Falls. So they're kind of
Central.
they're kind of in a bit of a recovery, but they were the ones that were kind of struggling along the way. West Lincoln, there was points where they were only selling, for those of you West Lincoln, Smithville, 7 houses in a month, 10 houses in a
Nice.
month in the whole
Welland
community.
has an interesting pocket in it in the, like, northwest corner on the border of Fond Hill.
Yes, yeah, where all the new builds are from Empire and Rinaldi, etc.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
even in the existing
Yep.
sections.
So North Welland will probably be a hot, in my opinion, because there's a lot of the old fairgrounds are being developed right now into commercial space and mixed. There's other spaces.
No way.
There's a lot going on up there right now. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah, on
Mhm.
Niagara Street, right up near just
Off
north
the
of the
highway
mall,
there.
north of the mall there.
Yeah.
So there's a big development going in there and from what I can see, it started with commercial. So we'll see how
Okay.
much of that gets developed into residential. I really haven't looked all that detailed at it yet. But the price, for the most part, has remained stable or increased slightly across most of the markets. There's going to be always be the
Increased
outliers
slightly.
slightly. So, like when you start to look at some of the markets in some of the areas, the sales numbers right now are going up and down a little bit. Where I live in Fort Erie, for example, we went up, then we went down, then we came back up.
Do you think that's seasonal?
I think there's some seasonality to it. I also think there's an affordability factor to it. Like, so typically Welland, and I use this when I talk to this team a lot. Welland's twice the size of Niagara. I think Welland's about 60,000, or 40 rather. Welland's about 60,000. 40 is about 30,000, give or take. Like, I mean, it
Mhm.
could
Yeah,
be
yeah.
off a little bit, but for rough numbers, Welland and Fort Erie are doing about the same amount of sales a month right now, which is very unusual to me because for a community that's twice the size, you would think
Yeah, like a
that they're
sales per capita type of thing.
right there, but that's not the case. So I think part of it comes down to affordability. The prices in Fort Erie are probably, well, not probably, the prices in Fort Erie and then along the south are definitely the lowest. In Port Colborne, Port
Yeah.
Erie, well, it is.
There is a lot of value out on South
There is a
Niagara.
lot of value in South Niagara, and I think people just need to get their head around the fact that like I come into the falls every day for work. It takes me 20 minutes. Like I leave my house at 10 to 8. I'm in the office by 20 after 8, and that includes driving all the way to Fort Erie to drop Aiden off school. So
I'm pretty sure I was here by 8:15 today and you were beat me here.
yeah, so there's gonna be some flatness to the market. I think for the next quarter, I don't think we're gonna see any huge drops or gains that aren't seasonal. And I take seasonality out of the equation. I know that the market's going to be slower November, December. People just don't want to. They're not in that place. But we're going to see some stability, and then hopefully turn the corner. I'm hoping we see a couple more rate reductions, which should spur a little bit of activity, and it will start to get people back into the market for the while the prices are low. The other thing is that has really remained consistent across the market is the sales to list ratio. It's still hovering between 96 and 96.5 in most communities
So
percentage. So
so
you
and
buy a house at
sales to
100.
list ratio is the price you sold it at versus the price you listed it at, not the number of sales versus
No,
number of
it is
listings.
strictly dollar value,
Okay.
basically list price to what you pay for it.
Okay.
That his
96%.
96 to 96 and a half, in that range, which is a good number for sellers to look at and say, okay, if I list my house at 400,000, I'm really going to get 12,000, 16,000 less than that.
So question now,
Yeah.
let's just say you list a house, 6 months ago, you haven't sold it yet, listing expires, you relist it, um, and for argument's sake, you initially listed it for a mil, and now you've listed it for 8, but you sell for 750.
Yeah.
Your sales to list ratio is based on.
The last list price. Now,
Okay.
we have the ability to go back and say, okay, we used to have because we work in two different MLSs. In our old MLS, I used to be able to go and say, sales to list to original list price, which was
Ooh.
a real true indicator of
Yep.
what the market, the
Mhm.
expectations were versus the market reality.
'Cause I feel like right now, one of the things we've been dealing with some people is, and we've talked about this, that they're chasing,
Yes, chasing the
right?
market
They're
down.
chasing the market down, where they've listed for an amount that was higher than it should have been for the time.
Yep.
Their next reduction took them to where they should have been at the first
Yes.
point, and they're just a month behind is how I look at it. They're
Every
just like
time.
a month behind, month behind, month behind. And then I almost get the impression, because there is a whole lot of psychology that goes into all this, right? If
Yes.
you make too big of a jump, what does that signal to everybody else? Are you just then correcting, or is there something
Yeah,
dramatically?
it starts to get the people asking questions
Yeah.
mentality. So give you a perfect example. I had a client this year. We were a month behind on everything, and the original list price was X, and we ended up down 100K at the final sale price because every step of the way we were chasing. We were
Mhm.
always 2 to 3 weeks behind. So it's not just a factor of listing too high. It's sometimes it's time of the year, sometimes it's what the rates are doing. Like there's so many factors
Mhm.
that come into it, and then always the sellers
Motivation.
motivation is huge,
To me,
right?
because that's a big one. You can list whatever 500K. You can list your house for being like, yeah, if I get 450, but so and so down the street might say, listen, I got to move into my retirement home. I'll take 400.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, the numbers just become skewed, and
Yeah.
this looks like an outlier.
So I try to take outliers out of the equation, especially in Font Hill and Niagara on the Lake, because there's as much as
Okay. Yep.
the luxury markets tend to have that one big sale in a month that and when you've only doing
Skews
20
everything.
skews everything.
Yeah. For like average sale price, probably.
Yeah, so I actually don't like average prices. I prefer the median,
Okay.
because I just think that at the end of the day, that's a more reflective of what's actually happening, and it doesn't get skewed by those outliers. But for Niagara as a whole, this we have seen ups and downs really in the last quarter, and one of them is just in the pure sales volume. So to give you an example, July. Okay, July is normally not a really really busy month. 583 sales across Niagara. That declined to 473. Now that's a big number, a big 100
July to August.
July to August. That's 110. That's a 20% drop month over month. The weird part about it is they kept going down, but the prices kind of held steady.
Hmm.
Like we're still, 672, 690, like an 18%, $18,000 difference between, the same time. That's not a big change,
No.
right? Especially when you're looking at the average, because we do significantly look at average because the consumer appreciates average a little bit more. But the volume came down, but the prices didn't change a ton, which is an indicator to me that we really have stabilized for the most part in prices. So when you've got that consumer that says, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to wait for the market to drop," you may be waiting a while, right? I have no crystal ball, and I make no bones about the fact that I don't have a crystal ball. But the numbers are indicating that we kind of have settled at this, this mid to high sixes
Yeah,
price point.
which makes sense. I know a few of the people who we talked to over the last little while, whenever they are in a position where sorry, when they're in a position where they're not selling a house, I tell them they're unicorns
Okay, why?
because they're not having to deal with selling another house.
Oh yeah,
They can come in, they have the pick of the litter, and I go, you can do whatever you want right now.
yeah,
Your offer looks a
so much
heck
better,
of a lot sweeter.
so much better. And I would say from our brokerage, I would say half the deals coming in right now are conditional upon sale of another house, which really makes your offer more challenging to get accepted. You're going to
Oh yeah.
pay more
Well, I
for
just
a
had one
sale of property.
accepted this past weekend. She was uh, Hamilton, Stony Creek area. The offer she got accepted was actually somebody else had an offer accepted, and hers had a better closing date because her other house is sold firm, and she
Yep,
can do it.
yep. So she's got flexibility.
And they were like, "Yeah, we want the better closing date."
Yeah, and when you sit down with your client as a realtor and you say, "Listen, that 10,000, it may seem like a lot right now, but if you lose this deal,
Yeah.
you're going to spend that $10,000 possibly on this house waiting for that next
Yep.
deal, right?" So there is some challenges to come with it. So I'm not a huge fan of sale of property offers. I'd rather sit and tell you to come back and see me, but the mentality becomes from consumers is I'm not gonna buy a house. I'm not gonna list my house until I find a house,
Yeah, which
which is the most
it is
and it's the most
backwards because we've
struggle.
talked about this, where
Yeah,
you go sell yours, and then when yours is sold,
you know how much you've got.
well, one, you know how much you've got. Two, you're coming in without the sale of property condition.
Yeah,
How much better does your offer look than
eh,
85% of other people who are like, "Well,
yeah,
I should probably."
and so that's where you end up paying more with a sale of property offer because now all of a sudden I have to incentivize you to accept my offer when another offer's on the table. What do I have? I'm asking you to hold up my house for 30 days on the market with a sale of property condition. I'm going to pay you more for the right to have the opportunity.
Yeah,
It's
and
so backwards to me.
I even think of from, uh, the seller's motivation. Like, if you're selling your house first,
Yep.
you're saying, "Okay, I can think about this sale a little more rationally
Yeah.
because I'm not sitting here going, 'I gotta sell this because I already bought another house.'"
Right. Like you don't have that proverbial financial gun to your head.
Yeah, you're not sitting there just being like, "Ah, man, this is the best offer I can get." You're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
"This is the best offer? I don't really care.
Yeah. 100%.
I'll keep waiting."
I'll wait
And
for what I need.
exactly.
Yep. 100%.
Um, and that's the same lady who got that other house. She was in the same position with this house she was selling, um, because she had no mortgage. She's like, "I don't have to move. You guys you're under my
Yeah.
time."
I control the situation a
She goes,
lot
"I'm
more.
moving because I want to,
Yeah. Not because I have to.
not because I have
And that's
to."
a big difference.
Um,
The challenge with that is there are going to always be people that financially have to do it that way.
I think it's happening more and more.
Yes, because of overpayment. I
Yep.
just read a story somewhere, and I can't remember where it was, and it talked about the market conditions in Niagara where somebody bought a house for 840. Okay, and I think and those numbers are right. They're going to lose $350,000 because they overpaid during the frenzy,
Mhm.
and now the gap between what they paid and what the value is today is so huge
I
that they're going
There's an
to just
example in
get
my
killed.
neighborhood that I use all the time.
Okay,
I don't know if I've talked to you about
I
this.
don't think so.
Um, where I live, there is a home that is very similar to mine.
Okay.
I will say nearly identical.
Okay.
And during the peak, it was purchased for about 650, 660.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And let's just say they put 10% down,
Yeah.
right? So that they put 65 grand down,
Sure. So they're around 600.
around $600,000 mortgage.
Yep.
That house right now is probably going to sell five.
Yeah. That's
500
happening
maybe?
all over the place.
And it's the example that I use all the time. We talked about it. I've talked with a few people about this because everybody goes, "Well, what's going to happen with mortgages for renewals and stuff?" Like my value isn't supported, and I go, "There, you are first of all not the only one.
No,
If
by
if
any stretch of the
lenders
imagination.
started all of a sudden having to check the value of your home, there would be a lot of people under a lot more water than you.
Yeah,
So as long as everything has been kosher, you're still paying.
yeah,
You know,
I agree.
keep things moving. You are kind of handcuffed because you can't move anywhere because the value's not going to be supported.
Yeah.
So we can't move you. But um, don't worry. You keep paying your mortgage. You should be able to keep it.
I think one of the biggest challenges that the market has right now is that gap between list price and actual value.
What do you mean?
So I did a slide for this, and I've got it right up in front of me right now. For example, and I'll pick on Font Hill right now. The average ask price in Font Hill right now is
Let
one.
me guess. Is it eight something?
Oh, you wish. 1.3.
What?
That's the average asking price in Font Hill right now. 1.3 million.
Okay.
Okay. What do you think the average selling price is?
Uh, I'm gonna say 1.1.
925.
Whoa. Whoa.
Okay. So you've got an expectation, and I call it the expectation gap
Uh-huh.
between what the seller still thinks the market is doing and what the reality of what the market is doing. Okay.
How do you bridge that gap?
Time. You have to be willing to sit, and you have to be willing to wait for that market to either shift, or you have to have a plan when you go and list that property and say, listen, we'll list it here, but here's what we have to do in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks. And if that doesn't make sense to you, then we
I'm
can't,
not your
I'm
guy.
not your guy.
So I had a good realtor buddy of mine. We were talking about this a few weeks ago. He had a property. I'm trying to think of the numbers he was telling me about. But for argument's sake, let's just say 500.
Okay.
He was out there in Hamilton and he was talking to somebody and she wanted to sell. And he goes, "Your property is worth 500.
Yep.
Like that's what I could sell it for." And he's got his finger on the pulse. He's doing business. Anyways, the seller says, "Well, that's interesting because so and so came through here the other day
Okay.
and said I could get, let's just say it's 650 or whatever."
Yep.
And he goes, "Okay, I'll be honest. If you can get that, take it." But he's like, "I think there is no chance in the world." He goes,
Yeah.
"Based on this, 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 and this."
Yep.
He was fortunate in that the seller looked at him and went, "This is interesting. You're telling me what I need to hear
Versus what I want to
versus what
hear.
I want to hear."
Yeah.
And he goes, "If I was in your shoes and you really think that so and so can get you that money, take it." But he goes, "I think you're going to end up at this price point, if not lower again."
And that has happened to me this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
You know the
I
story,
actually know the story.
right?
Yeah.
Where I gave a price that was $200,000 difference.
Yeah.
Guess where they are? They're listed close to where I said to list it 7 months later, right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of situation. So, to give you a couple of other examples, 40 is actually one of the better ones. Average list is 694, average sale is 617.
694, 617.
So
Okay.
it's not great, but it's a little bit more realistic than say Thorold, where the average ask is 812 and the average sell is 650.
That's a
So
big
even
swing.
even in the even in those smaller markets, it's a problem. When you look at Port Colborne, average ask right now is 758 to 525 for average sale. Now, so again, there's always caveats to these
Mhm.
numbers, right? Port Colborne has a lot of lakefronts, right? They demand more price, so the average actually price of what's selling is usually higher because those properties skew the numbers, right? And the everyday stuff, the five to 600, that's what's selling, right? So it kind of does skew the numbers a little bit. But Lincoln, Beamsville, this one's grotesque. A million 10,000 is the average listing price. The average selling price right now is 750. So $259,000 discrepancy between what the people expect their house to sell
What
for.
they're thinking they can get for it.
Yeah. And listen, the consumer, always thinks that their house is the Taj Mahal. And I use those words on a regular basis. Listen, I know what you think of your house because it's not a house to you, it's a home. So there's an intrinsic value
Yep.
of home versus house. The purchaser who's coming in doesn't give a crap about your
No,
family.
they're seeing sticks and bricks.
They're seeing sticks and bricks and they're seeing their mortgage payment,
Yeah.
right? And they're looking at things like, okay, well, you paid this. Why am I paying you this? Right, so there's always these numbers that kind of skew what really is. Like, you can break down the individual markets, like, and pick on, let's see, Welland. Okay, 53 sales, 46 sales, 57 sales over the last 3 months. Those are not huge swings. That says that that market is, to me, is not stagnant, but it's in a position where it knows what it is, right? Like, the price has gone 522, 547, 563, not huge swings, right?
To me, that seems like those are people just like it's operating almost as intended. It's got people upgrading, people purchasing, and people leaving.
Yeah.
It's like it's got a full.
We're still missing the one portion of the market that I think is and honestly, I don't know why it hasn't come back yet. The seniors downsizing into their retirement homes, moving in with family.
Yeah.
COVID really changed that. It took a lot of people out of moving into
Why do you think that is?
fear.
Hmm.
Because let's face it, I mean, we lived through COVID, and seniors homes were not treated well, right? Like, there was medical shortages, people dying in those homes. And I think people get to the point where they're, 70 years old and they're like, I ain't going there to die. Right. I'm not having my life turned upside down for that. So I'm going to stay in my house a little bit longer. I'm going to pay to have somebody cut the grass. I'm going to pay to somebody to do the lawn, to do the driveway and the landscaping and the maintenance and all that stuff. And it's still going to be cheaper than me doing this. I'll have what was the food service we were talking about when we were recording the last session? We talked about bringing chef's plate or one of those things.
Oh, like a meal
Bring
service.
the meal service in,
Yeah.
right? Like, we've got to the point now where all that stuff can be delivered to your door, and it's not junk food.
Yeah.
So, to that person that says, you know what, I'll take the mac and cheese today, right? I don't need to go to the home and have it made for me. I don't need to go and pay
Yeah.
three, four, $5,000 a month for that care. Now, there comes a point where that's not an option for
Yeah.
a
You
lot
don't
of
have the
seniors. You don't have
choice.
that choice. But a couple of years of people not moving out of their homes takes a ton
Yep.
of that value of those home, or takes a ton of that inventory out. Now, we definitely don't have an inventory problem.
No.
No, we do not have an inventory problem. I'm looking in almost every single market since July has gone up in inventory. Now, that's a factor of, again, it's seasonality, because we're in that fall market time right now where everybody's trying to get it done before the end of the year. But some of these markets have gone from 111 to 134 in a small market. That's a lot. Well, that's an extra 20%. Change in a market. But when you get into the bigger markets, let's see if I can find Niagara Falls quickly. Niagara Falls went from having 224 down to 185, and we're back up to 254. August is always a lull, so Q3 is always a little bit,
That makes sense.
kind of like
Everybody's
this.
getting ready for
Everybody's getting
school,
going back
back
to
to
school and
school, and
stuff.
then they put things on the back burner, and then they say,
Yeah,
"Okay, let's restart this." Everybody's back in routine.
yeah. So what looks like a volatile market is actually a normal dip, right? And it happens all the time. But when you start to see these numbers and they continue for months on month on month, and you take out those outliers, we are we're trucking along at 400 to 500 sales a month. Our most sales we ever had in Niagara in history was just around 10,000 in a year.
Was that in 2020, 21?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I've got it stored, but I think it was
Sweet.
20. I think it was 2020. So that's a big number. Normal 5,500, 6,000. We're going to come close to that this year. I think we're going to be, probably 5,700, 5,800 sales this year.
Things are
So
fairly normal.
yeah, it is. It's the doom and gloom of pricing
Hmm.
that's really, I think, in a lot of cases, holding people back, right?
Well, I know
And
on.
time on market's huge, because right now, if you look at the numbers across Niagara, it will tell you in the MLS system that it's 45, 50, 55 days. but we don't track previous listings.
Yeah.
So it really is probably around, if I had to guesstimate,
120 to 180.
nine, well, depending on the market, anywhere between 90 and 120. The Niagara on Lake and Font Hill probably are much long.
Do you still think there's a price point where things are moving?
Oh yeah. Realistically, smaller towns 450 to 550. So the Fort Erie's, the Port
Mhm,
Colborne's.
mhm.
When you get into the bigger cities, the 550 to 650. They seem to be the big.
Seems to be kind of what we had
Yeah.
when we talked a few months ago about
Yeah,
it too.
I don't think that's going to change for a little bit. And that just honestly, when you think about it, we talk real estate mortgage numbers all the time. $25,000 in income gets you $100,000 in buying power,
Yeah.
give or take, right?
Well, this is the same, like, and that's back of the napkin math that I use. The other one that I use for people, I go every 0.05 in rate is about $3 for every 100K.
Okay,
So if we're looking at these rate reductions, I'm like, how large is your mortgage? How much is it going to change? It's not going to change your payment.
that much.
And it's not enough to move mountains. You're not all
No,
of a sudden going to be able to buy a $900,000 home
no,
if you were in 600 range.
no.
But those price points make sense. What you're saying, smaller town market, 450 to 550. Like, yeah, a couple they can buy their first home in that market.
100% they can.
Um,
But that goes back to the expectations games of the market. I can't tell you how many people in the last month or so have told me I'm going to wait for the market to drop. The market did drop. It's been dropping for 18 months. How much further do you think it can go? Oh, it
yeah,
could go more. It really can't. And it can't because of
I
what
did
people
have
pay for
somebody
it.
say that to me. I don't get that as often because normally I'm at my stage of things. You know, we've kind of prefaced things pretty early. I do that back of the napkin math where I
Yep.
say every 25 grand gets you about 100 grand worth of money.
Uh-huh.
Vehicle payment will reduce it by this much. So we've got a ballpark. But I had one person who we've kind of been working on a pre-approval for a couple of years, and he said that. He goes, "Well, I'm waiting for this to tank." And I was what do you think is going to happen?" And he just kind of said, "Well, this could happen and dot dot dot." And I said,
It could go the other way.
"Yeah, there's a whole lot of what ifs in there."
Yeah.
I go, I have nothing wrong with you continuing to rent. Like this is a personal decision.
But
Not
not
nobody.
necessarily the most financially sane.
It,
But
whatever
this,
works for you, you do.
I think when it comes to it is it comes down to the fact that, $150,000 combined income in a house gonna get you about 600 or about $600,000 mortgage. Okay, depending on how much you save, blah 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 blah
Hmm.
blah. Those are city incomes typically, right? Like
Yeah,
70,
larger city,
right?
larger
Larger
industry.
city, larger industry, et cetera, et cetera. Smaller towns, if you live in those towns, you want to leave those towns, typically a lower thing. You're going to get that 450 to 500,000.
Yeah, which jives.
Right. I think that's really the driving factor right now in the
Yeah.
market. Like cottages, forget it. Like it's amazing. You want to know about what's going to happen with the real estate market. Watch to see things like quads,
The toys.
the toys. When you see an influx of those hit the market, that recreational spending is going out the window and people are starting to tighten up their
People don't
belts.
have it.
They don't have it, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden now, like, the people in Shirkston, there's a reason why in our market there's so many houses cottages for sale in Shirkston.
Is there that many?
Oh, I think there's 600, 700 trailers in Shirkston. I think 100 of them are for sale right now.
I had no
Oh
idea.
yeah, it's there's a huge, and I could be wrong on those numbers. We try to get the number of trailers every once in a while. It could be more than that. Like realistically,
But
it
a
could
good
be
chunk.
a good chunk of trailers.
Yeah.
Like you can't drive a street in Shirkston right now and there not be one or two for sale, right? Because that's recreational spending, right? So fees are $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Well, that $1,000 a month is a mortgage payment to a lot of people,
Yeah.
right? Right now, that doesn't include the cost of the actual trailer. That's just the
Yeah.
right to drive in the gate. So things like when you get into the quads, you get into all the toys, the dirt bikes, the boats, all of those things. That's the first thing to go. Now, when you see an influx of that hit the market, and all you got to do is go to Facebook Marketplace,
Yep.
whatever the case may be,
You search it once, you
you
see them all.
you 100%, and you will see that directly affects the cottage market, right? That ancillary spending is starting to dry up. So that will affect prices as well because people who have cottages that they can no longer afford need to get out. So that will drive those prices down a little bit. And we're seeing some of that, typically that's a 40 Port Colborne Wainfleet
Mhm.
issue because that's where the majority of the cottages are, located in those
Do you guys
three
get a lot
zones.
of US people in Cherkston?
Um, yeah, so there's a lot of US people in Sharks, and that is mostly because the foreign buyers ban doesn't apply to them in there, right? So they can buy, Americans can buy in there, no problem,
Hmm,
right? Where they can't buy. Now, that brings us to the next question. The next thing is, and for anybody that's out there, the government at some point is going to have to make a decision on the foreign buyers ban. They can't prevent foreign buyers from purchasing forever and ever. We have basically 14 months left of that ban. Okay.
'kay.
Right now, the legislation is set to expire July 30 or January 1st, 2017. So we have rest of 2000
2027?
or 27. Yeah,
Mhm.
thanks. Ooh, well, I lost 10 years. Um, that's set to expire January 1st, 2027, which means we have the rest of 2025 and 2026.
26.
Unless they extend that, there is a mountain, and I mean a mountain of buyers who are not allowed to buy right now in certain markets that really are just going to be they're sitting there, all they're doing right now is saving money. They're just putting money away,
Stockpiling.
stockpiling cash so that when they have the ability they can buy. And that's worrisome to me because you as fast as you took them out, you're going to put them back in unless they
It
come up with a system
mm,
to
yeah.
gradually change it. But
But
anytime
it
the
makes me
government
think
starts,
what's gonna happen is this is gonna lapse before they end up extending it.
mm, last time they extended it like 6 months out, like there was a plenty of notice. But realistically, when you're looking at these situations, that's that's the condo market in Toronto,
Ah.
right? Like this expectation that that buyers are going to come in and they're going to jack the prices up. There's so much inventory sitting in the condo world in Toronto right now, new builds sitting waiting to be built, et cetera,
Yeah.
that until that gets chewed up in the big cities, it shouldn't affect the outlier communities much, right? So there's a lot of unknown for the next 14 months. I mean, government issues aside, what's the Bank of Canada going to do? Every time they bring that rate down, it makes it a variable rate mortgage that
That much
more,
more
more
enticing.
enticing, right?
Yeah.
Um, we're not in a great economic place. Is that gonna drive the market indicators down? I think it probably will. Um, uh,
Well, that's what I always tell people when they're like, "Man, I really wish these rates would come down." I go, "Yeah, like, that'd be great, but, like, it doesn't mean we're as a whole doing very good."
mm-mm. In fact, it's quite the opposite. When the rates come down, it's usually for the government incentivizing
Yeah.
people to spend money, right? So, like the market that we're in is it's hard, and I think that's the biggest thing for
I think that's the
everybody.
best way to
It's hard
describe
for
it.
realtors, it's hard for mortgage people, it's hard for buyers, and it's hard for sellers. And the reason it's hard for buyers is because so many of them are already in the market. Now, if I'm a first time home buyer,
Yeah.
I'm
The
like you
unicorns I
said,
talk
you're the
about.
unicorn.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I got all these houses to choose from.
You do whatever you want.
Do what you want.
Yeah.
But the reality is that is a small portion of the purchaser out there.
Yeah,
So,
I think you're right. I
right.
think that is a small demographic. I think there's still some people who are left over from the time when there was bidding wars and they never
Mm.
bought in and they said, "You know what? I'm waiting."
Yeah,
Um,
I'm not gonna have a gun to my head to purchase a house.
yeah, we bought during that.
Yep.
We just whatever, it worked out fine. But I think a lot of people who waited, they're now kind of saying, "All right, let me take a kick at this can again.
Yeah.
See what's going on. Maybe I can afford more. Maybe I've saved up more. Maybe my job is better."
Yeah.
They got a lot of things going for them, and now they're coming in and they're like, "I can offer whatever I want."
Yeah. And
Uh,
and and in a lot of cases, not get flat out rejected and negotiate. There's a lot of negotiation room right now in the marketplace. There really is. You have the ability to go in a little bit lower and test the waters without upsetting people. Because I tell my clients every client I've signed this year, do not be offended. You don't know what their
it's a
situation
jump
is.
off point.
It is they have to try.
Yeah.
They've got to pick a number. Now, some realtors will take that to the nth degree, but realistically, the consumer, if you prep your consumer properly, they'll be okay with that deal. Yeah, I mean, you heard a bit of the conversation I'd had before, where like I prep my clients. I tell them like, this is the number. Like that's why that sales to list ratio number is so important because it gives the consumer, for the most part, the seller, that confidence in knowing where their house should sell,
Yeah.
all things being equal. But realistically, we're still and realistically 4 years later, we're still retraining consumers on value.
I think you guys right now are seeing, and I keep saying this, like a resurgence in the perceived value of a realtor.
Oh, 100%.
I think there was a period in whatever 2020 to 22, and people were like, "I don't need a realtor.
Yeah.
I'll sell my house right now.
Yep.
It'll go into a bidding war."
It became all about smoke and mirrors.
Well, be it was made to look easy because,
We made it look easy.
but also it kind of it was at that point. There was just flooded with buyers. Money was cheap, and it you could move a house quickly.
Yeah, for the most part, I agree with that.
Yeah, and I just think now, y-
You're separating the curds in the way.
yeah,
You
like
really are.
dramatically,
Really are.
you're getting people who are like, people are relying on your advice now, where
Yeah.
you say, "Hey, this is a pretty good offer," or just say, "Listen, I don't think this is a good offer."
So I'll give you a story about the market and how value for the realtor is portrayed. I, as you know, listed my in-laws' property in Niagara Falls. And there's nothing worse. Oh, I didn't. I thought I told you. I've got my in-laws property up for sale. Um, there's always an awkwardness when you walk into somebody's house to tell them
Mm, okay.
about the process, right? So especially, and I personally find it easier with a stranger, somebody that I meet, than to do it with even friends, but mostly with family. And I tell my realtors all the time, I don't typically deal with my family because I don't want there to be issues. So I walked in there not knowing how they were going to react. I'd never done business with my in-laws. We don't talk real estate because,
Just doesn't come up.
it just doesn't come up.
Yeah.
And I honestly, when I see my in-laws, I don't want to talk real estate. I want to talk to them about them and what's going on in
So
their
just
life.
to interrupt,
Yeah,
totally off a tangent. What you just said, like when you're with certain people, you don't want to talk about it.
yeah.
I was golfing with my slow pitch team this weekend.
Okay, another invitation to golf you didn't give me. All right, whatever. You want to golf this afternoon?
uh, maybe if I can finish up a few things after this,
Okay,
maybe.
all right.
My wife might kill me, but maybe.
I know. My
Um,
wife's gonna probably kill me. So,
so we're sitting there having a hot dog or whatever after. We're at Grand Niagara,
oh, okay, yep,
the 9 hole,
yep. Ugh.
and I really like
I
that
know what
place.
people do. I hate it.
And it's a tough course.
Yep.
Um, and somehow somebody's talking about a realtor, and one of the other guys chimes in. He goes, "Oh, you need a realtor?" And this guy goes, "Oh yeah, like I know a few." He goes, "Why are you one?" And this guy goes, "Yeah, I'm a realtor." And then somebody mentions to the realtor that I'm a mortgage broker, and
Yeah.
he goes, "Greg, I didn't know you were a mortgage broker." He goes, "We're doing a bad job of our jobs, and
Hmm.
you didn't know I was a realtor." I go, "I know you're a realtor." And he looked at me and he was like, "You did?" I was like, "Yeah, I've known you're a realtor for like 2+ years." And he's like, "Why didn't you say anything?" And
Would I?
but it was exactly this, where I was like, I go to slow pitch to not talk about this.
Yeah.
And I was like, I might complain to my brother-in-law here about a few things we got going on because he likes to hear some of the chaos. But I was like, I come here to try to hit a ball.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not here to do business. The business hopefully comes from the conversations,
Maybe. And
right?
there have been some ancillary
Sure.
conversations, but I just laughed because he was like shell shocked.
Yeah.
And I was like, I, I'll reach out to you one day.
Yeah.
And he goes, wait a minute. Are you too busy? I was like, no.
Yeah.
But I was like, just never came up
Yeah.
because I don't talk about that when we're slow pitching.
Yeah.
So I get that.
Yeah, so so we just I just avoid it. I don't want it to I want downtime when I get
You
family
want a
time.
mental
I
break
want
from
a
it.
mental break. So I walk into my in-laws house and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Like in my head, I know how to do it, but
You're walking in
but
as Steve Oliver, the son-in-law, versus Steve
Steve Oliver,
Oliver.
the realtor. So
Yeah.
I legitimately walked in the door, and it's funny because we were walking in the door, and I'm like 15 feet behind Sue, and I'm just dragging my ass, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I wanna. Like, yeah, I'm like, should I hand this up? But because it's my in-laws, I said, no, you know what, I'll do it. And I sat down with them, and I went through everything. I
Mhm.
did my normal real estate. And I didn't know how it was received, and I didn't say anything because I was really apprehensive, and I'm thinking to myself, I know what the hell I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about. How have they gotten into my head
Yeah.
so bad?
Why am I so intimidated right
Right?
now?
Like, like, I was gobsmacked at myself. And I got home and my mother-in-law said to me, she says to me, she says, "You're really good at what you do. You made us feel like we're prepared,
Informed.
we're informed." And I thought, okay, so it's not, we were talking earlier about having this caveat of
Confidence versus
confidence versus
non-confidence. Yep.
non-confidence. That was eye-opening for me. And then, but how do you portray that, right? And that value of what I did in that room reassured me what I'm doing for my clients is right, because if it's right for my in-laws who know nothing about buying and selling a house
Mhm.
other than what they been told by others, um, if they came out informed and felt informed, then that's where the value is, right?
Yeah.
Like now they know what to expect. And I fear that there's a lot of consumers out there that don't have that same confidence because somebody shows up and says, it's worth 900,000. Let's list it for 899. Why?
Yeah.
The why is, I think, what gets missed a lot. Why is the market the way it is right now? It is far too complex to sit and explain in an hour or in a 45-minute video
Mhm.
about it. But there's a million factors that go into driving, no driving the market. No different than what drives mortgages. Everybody says, "Oh, it's the Bank of Canada." No, it's not the Bank of Canada. It has
Oh,
absolutely nothing to do with the Bank of
they make
Canada.
the
They
decision.
make the decision, but they're only doing it and people don't understand what the difference is between a key overnight lending rate and what prime is. They think that they're the same thing,
But
right?
also, so one of the documents, I had to talk about this morning, that we send to our clients is this mortgage suitability form.
Mhm.
One of the first questions, it goes something like, "What are you looking for in a mortgage?" Um, Lowest payment, lowest amount of interest paid, lowest rate, or improved cash flow.
Yeah,
And I've had a few people push back and be like, "It's the same." It's like, it's I want all of them. And I go, so now when I explain it, I go, "Okay, you think the answer to this is you want the lowest rate." But
yeah,
I go, "These are in fact like different answers." I go, "If you end up wanting um to pay the lowest interest," I go, "we look to shorten your amortization."
yeah,
Okay? That's what's gonna do the biggest impact.
yeah,
If you're looking for lowest monthly payment, move that amortization out.
yeah.
If you're looking for this, you're like,
It's cause and effect.
yeah, but like it's not all the same thing.
No. And I
Um,
really do think it is though.
I know they do.
And I think that's where having a good group of people surrounding you. I rarely talk mortgages anymore. I give what you called, and I love that terminology. I'm going to give you the napkin,
Oh, the back of the napkin.
back of the
Yeah.
napkin conversation. You're going to go talk to my in-house mortgage team
Yeah,
next
yeah, yeah.
because they're going to give you the nitty gritty. No different than, you know what? I can go to Zillow and I can get the Z estimate,
Yeah.
right?
It's called a Zestimate,
Whatever. It's also called lawsuits.
I bet.
You can get that number. But
Sure.
when I tell you why that number's
Yep.
not accurate, and here's what I think the value is, higher or lower in some
Mhm.
cases, depending on what it is, I can tell you with reason and with logic why that is the way it is. And that is what is missing from the market right now is consumer education.
Yeah, I think it's huge. And the spot that I see it is with people in income,
Oh,
right?
okay.
They go, "I made $330,000." And they'll tell you, "I make
Yeah.
$330,000." Right? And you go, "Okay, what's your base?"
Yep. Oh, 180,000 and I get bonus to 150,000. Okay, so your income's 180,000, not 330.
Okay. And then I go, "Okay, well, what year did you make that in?" "Oh, that was in 23." "Well, what did you do in 24?" 240.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're already not using
Yeah.
three whatever number I
At
said.
best case scenario, using a 2-year average of the two,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
And then it's those conversations where people go, "Well, I can afford that much. I popped 330 into
Huh.
somebody's online mortgage calculator." And you have to explain to them like, "Well, we can't use that much." "Well, why not?" "Well, for this and this and this reason."
Yeah.
And that's why when we're talking, I'm going to use the smallest amount I can.
Yeah.
And then if we have to use more,
We've got flexibility.
we have flexibility. We,
Yeah.
we can make a case for it.
Yeah.
But if our numbers work like this,
Why?
you can afford this,
Yeah.
we're laughing.
Yeah. I think that the market, and the number that we were talking about earlier about the difference between the list price and the actual sales price, I think that is a huge factor in the market still, that is affecting a lot of the sales, because I think if people were to list more conservatively, with regards to the value of their home as opposed to the perceived value,
Okay.
there'd be more houses in the market that are palatable and affordable for the consumer looking to move. And when you get into that combination of, you know what, now all of a sudden, instead of having 100 houses between 5 and 600, now maybe you got 150,
Yeah.
and there's more options for those people. It will spur activity, because now they got more choices. They don't have to worry so much about, well, what happens if I sell my house and I can't find somewhere? Well, you know what? You got 150 houses to choose from. If you can't choose from 150, you probably shouldn't be moving.
You're being pretty picky,
Yeah. Right. And
or you can't afford it.
or you can't afford it. Right.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to a lot of so many factors. Niagara's not as bad as people think Niagara is. It's not the market that it was 4 years ago. It's not the market that it was 5 years ago. It's still a decent market. There's still a lot of value out there. If you're a first time home buyer, especially, you can get into the market right now. There are houses that are first time home buyer houses under 400,000 right now. Right, plain and simple. You know, stop shooting for the stars. I think that's another problem we have with the consumer. They want everything in their first house. There's a process to this. You have to get into the market before you can get what you want.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I think you're right.
The first place I bought was a shithole. Well, it wasn't a shithole, but it was,
Sure.
it
It's not
needed
what you wanted.
it not what I wanted. I
Yeah.
made it what I wanted over 2 years, and then turned around and sold it so that I could get into the house that I'm in now. Now I'm at the point where I own next to nothing on my house. I want to bulldoze it and start over. Right? Like, just that's just the practicality of it. But instead of me
Your
moving,
mortgage?
what's that? Yeah, line of credit, big one, please. But realistically, that's the process. And you know what? Like, I took longer because I didn't want to tear my house down and do all that stuff. But now I'm at the point where I'm like, I love where I live. I
Yeah.
love where I live. Everything about where I live is perfect. So why would I move?
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to buy a prefabbed house and put a prefabbed house on my property.
Huh.
I'm going to go down that avenue where I'm not out of my house for 9, 10, 12 months while it's being built. I'm going to go and find myself Royal Homes or whomever. Shout out to Royal Homes. Maybe you give me a discount for the 20 people that are listening to us right now. But go to a home builder like that and say, listen, I want this, this, and this, and I want it done in 30 days. Can you do it? However long from the day you we put the foundation in the ground, I want to be in my house in 30 days, and they can do that. Right.
Jeez.
So that's the avenue, but a lot of it comes down to, and I use this term a lot when I do training, home and garden television.
Mm.
The consumer needs to stop watching that crap. They need to start listening to professionals and take the advice out of the professional that you hired. And
Yeah, you brought him in for a
you
reason.
brought them in for a reason. And don't bring them in because they're your buddy. Don't bring them in because you're cops together. I lost a client because I got to work with my buddy who's a cop. You got to work with your buddy who's going to give you part-time service. He's already making 100 grand a year, so he doesn't have a financial motivation to sell your house. And you're going to go and get his advice because on the few times that he's, not tied up doing something, he might actually be able to answer the phone. Give your head a shake, consumer. Please hire professionals, hire realtors that treat it like it's a job, and you will get the best results and be able to take advantage of the market situation that we're in.
So what do you think's happening in the next 6 months just to wrap
I
this
think
all
we're going to
together?
go up. I think we're going to go up a few points in price still, and I think that we will probably for the first 6 months, for the next 6 months, I think the sales volume will probably stay relatively similar,
Be
taking
consistent.
out seasonality, and then I think that my prediction is that moving forward in 2026 from the spring market on, we will be in an uptick all year long. I don't. I really predict that with the Bank of Canada and the consumer finally getting to that point where this is what the real value is of my house, we're going to see a lot more adjustments and resetting of expectations.
Okay. You heard it here
Yep.
first.
Then we'll see. All right. So that was supposed to be a 15-minute segment. That ended up being 49 minutes. So hopefully that helps somebody along the way.
I think so. I was laughing at that too.
Yeah, I kept looking at the clock thinking, we're never going to shut up. So with that, we will see you next time and have a great week.